Hello, my name is Sharon Danks, and I'm the Executive Director of Green Schoolyards America, and I'm the coordinator of the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative. Thanks so much for joining us today, and you're here today at a meeting of the National Initiative's Community of Practice for Schools and Districts who are moving learning outside. Today, I am happy to introduce our guest speakers who will give a talk about the work they've been doing this year at Berkeley Unified School District. We have with us today Steve Collins, the Facilities Maintenance Manager, Sophia Peltz, the Sustainability Coordinator, and Jezra Thompson, the Supervisor of the district-wide Gardening and Cooking Program. And I'm thrilled to have them here to share their work. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jezra Thompson, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Hopefully everything is spelled right on these slides. And we're so excited to be here. And thank you for inviting us to talk about our experience setting up the outdoor spaces at Berkeley Unified School District in response to COVID-19 and in support of safely welcoming students and teachers onto campus, which has been super weird to say the least. This work is a huge team effort, and all of the BUSD facilitators will be presenting the work to you today. So fortunately, all of us are able to present as a collective and highlighting our amazing community members that have supported us. So like I said, my name is Jezra, and I supervise the gardening cooking program here at the district. And before I turn the slides on over to the other facilitators, I'm going to ground us in a little bit of context and then talk a little bit about the gardening cooking program as it supports creating outdoor learning and working environments. So Berkeley is a urban district that's placed in the Bay Area. And if you're not familiar with the Bay Area, it's very, very urban mostly and has amazing natural spaces. We're adjacent to Oakland and Marin and San Francisco, and abutting our suburban community members and places in the larger East Bay. Though we have amazing natural resources, like I mentioned, close by, not everyone has access to them. And for many, our schools are often the spaces with the greatest natural resources. You can see on the map to the right, we've pinned our schools so you can see them in context. So we have a relatively small district compared to other districts in the Bay Area. We have 3 early child education centers, 11 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 1 large high school, and 1 smaller alternative high school. We also have an adult school, but they haven't been a focus in this particular work. So that's not a large district when we're thinking about the Bay Area compared to San Francisco and Oakland. We're particularly focused as a district on valuing diversity, and we have equity at the forefront of our mission, particularly as we're changing in demographics and wealth and becoming a much more wealthier community, which does change how we need to really think about equity. Fortunately, we have a school garden in every school from preschool through high school. Each garden looks different and varies in size, considering that some of our campuses are mainly full of concrete and some of them have more space and more greenery, but they look different in every school site. Over time, we've developed a robust garden-based learning program with a garden instructor at every school that leads full classes with teachers, and they provide an academic lesson during the academic day, at least every other week. In our early child education centers and middle schools, the teachers and students are actually in the garden much more often than every other week. So given that school gardens are part of our district culture, it's not a far stretch to think through how we can expand this work and think outside of the structured boxes of our traditional classrooms. Not to say that it was, we were all in collective agreement when we wanted to get these spaces set up. It was definitely an effort to present the argument, but we were all already familiar, and we had to remind our community that this is something that we currently do and that we know how to do well, and we can continue to stretch and think about how to support our students outside. So our Berkeley community is unique in my eyes, and I think in our group's eyes, and maybe this is relative to other places, but I think that our community is incredibly involved and supportive of our schools. Historically and presently, we have engaged our community members, parents and guardians, and we have amazing supportive institutions and businesses that all really care deeply about our students and families' development and thriving success. We're so intertwined with our community that, in fact, I don't even recall who reached out to who when this all went down. But we were just thoroughly in communication with each other on the need to get kids and families the support, and how do we get them back onto campus. And so we were really fortunate to have them as part of this conversation from the very beginning. District leadership was also attuned to this, and they had asked the Guardian Cooking Program and facilities to lead these efforts. So the Guardian Cooking Program is actually in the education department, and of course facilities is part of maintaining our grounds and so much more. So it was really a cross-departmental effort. And together with our community experts, some of which who are also parents, as well as experts in the field, we began meeting virtually, regularly, since about last summer, and selectively on campus in person when we had to do a site assessment and other types of tours. We have a website for our community group, which was on the first slide, and I'll reshare that too in the chat when I get a chance. So you could check out kind of the gist of our work, and we're gonna be updating that website too as we develop more. But I want to highlight a couple of our key community group members who reached out to us and who provided us continual support to develop this model, as well as invited us to their campuses to look at how they're teaching outside and working outside. So I want to call out Yalda Modaber, the founder and principal of Golistan, who you know well, who was speaking with us earlier. So I won't go on and talk about who she is, but she has been incredibly supportive of our ability to actually do this work. Sharon, of course, we're super fortunate to have Sharon in our community, and she has been present with this work and participating in our group meetings, as well as leadership from the Lawrence Hall of Science, amazing institution right in our backyard that is an expert in teaching and learning and working and being outside. We've had some support from Bay Tree Designs, who've donated tons of their time in looking at our landscapes, actually drawing up aerial plans and maps of potential seating arrangements, and have participated in many of our meetings. So we're super fortunate to be placed within this area that has folks, but also a community that's deeply invested. We're also really grateful for this particular community. Many of us have been participating in these meetings and working groups and have learned a ton, and have also drawn from these resources. So a lot of the resources shared, we directly used and just kind of reinterpreted to best fit us. So that's a bit of our grounding, and I really want to, and I'm excited to turn over the slides on over to Steve Collins, who is our maintenance manager, and Sophia Peltz, who's our sustainability coordinator, to talk a little bit more about their work and how it relates to setting up outdoor classrooms, and particularly how they have been able to set up the actual infrastructure. So I will be the toddler, I will be on mute, and I'd like to turn the slide on over to Steve and Sophia.
Hi, everyone. So should I get started, Steve?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm the sustainability coordinator, and I just want to give some background about how sustainability relates to all of this. So since 2018, the district adopted a sustainability plan, and we have undertaken a wide range of initiatives to improve the sustainability of our school campuses and community at large since then. So in 2019, the district partnered with SEI, which is a local environmental nonprofit, to help implement our 8-part sustainability plan. And through that partnership with SEI, the district hired a sustainability fellow from their Climate Corps Fellowship Program, which is myself, and I work under the direction of our facilities and maintenance manager, Steve Collins, who is here presenting with us. And I'd like to say that the sustainability plan really helped pave the way for prioritizing the creation of our outdoor learning environments. So within our plan, we have a schoolyard section with a vision to make BUSD schools dynamic, multi-use, and nature-filled spaces to help improve the well-being of our students and the environment at the same time. And so to fulfill that vision, we have an objective to develop a long-term policy and funding sources for outdoor classrooms. And I'd also like to shout out Steve, because I think it's really unique that we have a facilities and maintenance manager so dedicated to sustainability, and his team really took on the project and helped set up all the sites from building the wooden desks, which we'll get into later, to setting up the tents. So Steve, feel free to take it from here.
All right, next slide. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Collins. I'm the facilities maintenance manager with the district. I've been with the district 14 years. I've been a manager in buildings and grounds for all of my life pretty much, and have just always been passionate about sustainability. And that's what brought me here, and that's why I'm passionate about it. So I love the work that we're doing together. And this has been an amazing opportunity to really help get the kids outside. Of course, outdoor classrooms are not a brand new idea, but COVID kind of brought the concept to the forefront for a lot of people. So we had our working group. And again, I'll reiterate what Jezra said, that we are very, very fortunate here in Berkeley to have amazing community partners. They're parents of our school district, Yalda and Sharon, as well as some other partners. And you all know them as amazing experts in this field. And we happen to have them as parents in our district, and we're very, very lucky for that. They've been very generous with all of their time. So yeah, we got our working group together. The district directed us to set up what we called learning hubs. And so basically these sites, it's 4 elementary schools and 3 preschools, where we wanted to bring in kids that were really struggling with the online learning. And so these weren't for sites for teachers actually teaching. The kids were coming here and still learning on their iPads, but there were adults there to support them. So that's where we set these up at. So these pictures here, you see that we're our working group. There's Yalda there on the bottom left. We're walking through different sites with the principals and choosing the best locations to have these setups and all that kind of stuff. Next slide there. So here you see, you guys might recognize bottom right there, that came from the Green Schoolyards of America. The top right is one of our community partners, Bay Tree Designs, is a local landscape architect that believes in green schoolyards and green building. So they helped us with these sketch level drawings to show at a schoolyard where we can have the different tent setups at. All righty.
Yeah, and I can kind of take it from there and expand on that a little bit. So after we got Bay Tree Design to, which is a landscape architecture firm, volunteer their time to kind of help us visualize what the outdoor learning spaces would look like, we started to attend site visits at each school. And that's kind of just reiterating what Steve said. But I just wanted to point out that we use the augmented reality visualizer tool to help us do that, which is located on the Green Schoolyards America website. And that really helped us visualize what the seating arrangements would look like before we even set them up. And so now we can kind of go on to the budget. So we started this process by really actually taking the outdoor infrastructure cost estimate tool from the Green Schoolyards America website as well, and kind of use that as a template to shape our budget. So from there, and watching these presentations, we made a list of necessary items. A lot of them were purchased from Amazon, but some of them were created in-house, like the desks, and we got the tents locally supplied. So we purchased enough supplies for 14 students per outdoor classroom, and the costs of the classroom really ranged depending on the size of the tent. But we found it particularly helpful to link all of the products in our spreadsheet to help keep track of them.
Okay, so here's an example of one of our schools. This is a 20-foot by 30-foot commercial canopy tent. The title actually says final tents, but we actually, after we set this is our initial setup, and this is a picture for the tent. And we actually had walked through after this initial setup with our working group, which includes Yalda and Sharon, and got some pointers on using kind of like the camo netting, which is more, lets more air flow through. So we have actually modified some of these walls to maximize airflow through there. But you see here, we have the big 50-gallon barrels. So on some of them, we staked down where we could, but in areas where that wasn't sufficient, we used 50-gallon barrels full of water to weigh down these things so they don't go flying away. And you see our desks there. Next slide, please. So what each tent has, we have a rolling, so and this tent, these supplies we got from a variety of things. Some we just shopped out, some we got recommendations. This upper left-hand corner, the mobile whiteboard that also has a magnetic section down below, that was a recommendation from Yalda. We used a simple plastic fold-up table for the teacher's desk, and then we bought the teacher a chair. We built our own student desks. Each teacher has a wagon to haul their things in and out, and there's a locking cabinet in each space as well to lock things up. And then challenges, as you all can imagine, challenges were plenty. The tent sizes varied. There's probably 3 main tent sizes, but this picture on our left here is an example of, this is one of our early education sites, and they have these narrow spaces behind all the classrooms where they really wanted to set up, be able to come out and kind of expand the size of their classrooms. So obviously we had to go with a very narrow 10 by 20 or 10 by 30 foot in these spaces here. The right picture is one of our carpenters building our custom desks. So I need to give a shout out here to the Waldorf School of DuPage in Illinois. We actually, they are part of the community. Sharon knows them, and Sharon actually got us a picture with some measurements of these desks, and I gave it to one of my carpenters who finalized the design. We bought the cedar lumber from a local lumber yard and started mass producing these. So we've made a couple hundred of these, and it's down to like very simple, quick, and easy right now. But some of the challenges we faced it was interesting. One challenge turned into another challenge where at the very beginning, the buy-in from the principals, several of the principals were a little bit hesitant, and they were worried about giving up their playground space. They were worried that they would lose playground space. As an urban district, we have small school sites. But what happened was, after we set them up and more kids started coming in, the tents were very popular. And also with some of the distancing requirements, a lot of the secondary class spaces like science or counseling were kind of pushed out of the buildings. So we actually have a science teacher teaching full-time at one of the schools in one of our tents. And then, just finding the material, ordering during the COVID time, things where the supply chain was all messed up, as you all know. Permitting requirements or restrictions kind of got in our way. And then, once we started building out all the tents and the desks, we self-performed everything. We didn't use any contractors on any of this work. And so we did have times where we had other important COVID-related things we had to do to sites. And so just shortage of people power.
So how it's being used, Steve touched on this a little bit, and we've been walking through the campuses, and I've been presenting at the principals' meetings on how these spaces look once we've set some of these spaces up, and have encouraged them to engage their staff in thinking creatively of how to use these spaces. And once we got kids on campus, they were the most popular spaces around. All of as much outdoor education and learning and working as possible has been happening outside. So these spaces are actually now scheduled in by the principal on a rotation, and they're mainly being used for small pullouts. We have science release teachers at all of our elementary schools, and our garden instructors have actually been teamed with them to co-teach many of their classes. in these smaller group pullouts. So garden teachers and science teachers are co-teaching life sciences outside in these spaces, which is even further connecting the academic programming with the outdoor use spaces. So hopefully we'll be learning a lot of lessons that we can take with us into the new normal of times. These spaces are also used for library time, small pullouts for special education interventions, even one-on-one conversations with other teachers and staff members, or different types of one-on-one conversations with students. We've surveyed our principals initially to ask them if they wanted more of these spaces, if we could possibly provide some more of these spaces. And all of them said, yes, please. And we would love to invite the group to come and walk through our campuses and identify some more spaces in the structure that we've created. So we've got a couple great quotes from some of our principals, and we've also been encouraging them to utilize alternative outdoor spaces outside of just the tents. Many of these spaces, like you could see on the far left, are already positioned, particularly for the warmer seasons. They have tables, there's trees, and even thinking of all the different nooks and crannies, it was really helpful to walk around with our community experts and principals to look at all of the spaces, not just the obvious spaces, and how can we have more ad hoc groupings and teachings and participating with our staff outside, even with those wagons. Next steps, we have big dreams as a team. We all care deeply about this work and love that we're getting more people outside. And we've been able to, with Steve and the rest of the facilities team's support, been able to build out these with a lot more connectivity because they're doing it in-house. We have dreams to build out about 4 per site over the summer if we can. We're going to be starting really with the most at need schools, so depending on demographic and use, which means that we want to set up most of our early child education centers because they're currently and they're year round. We also want to focus on our campuses that we know we're going to have summer school and prepare them to teach and be outside as much as possible as we're getting to be more familiar and comfortable with in-person learning at all of our campuses. That is, of course, a dream, and it's going to take continual effort with our group team. So we'll be meeting as a working group regularly, and we'll be convening with our leadership team to see how much we can do this summer. But we're really going to use this summertime as a real working space to create more of these. So that is our quick presentation. We tried to summarize this as best as possible. We invite you to contact us. All of our emails are first and last name at berkeley.net, except for Sophia. She's at sustainability@berkeley.net. And I encourage you to look at our website. I chatted the Outdoor Learning Environments Working Group website, as well as the Cooking and Gardening website. And I will also chat the sustainability and the facilities websites separately, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen and look at some of these questions. And Lauren, if you could help me call out some of these. I thought I was able to double task, but I didn't get a chance to read through. So do we have some time to answer some questions?
We do. First, thank you so much, 3 of you, for this wonderful presentation. And I'm so excited to see it. And we do have I'd say another 5 minutes or so for questions. So, and we do have some in the chat. And Lauren or Andra, would you like to help us with sharing them?
Sure. One question that came up, are any of these schools joint use sites where the public can access the park space during out of school time hours?
Yes. Yeah, we have a joint use agreement with the city of Berkeley for many of our sites, most of them. So we do open them up. So we did have a concern for vandalism. We already have had a little bit of vandalism, but we decided that, the only way to go is to go forward, and deal with it as we go. So yes, we do have joint use sites.
And sort of conversely, I don't remember who asked this, but someone asked something about locking items and security. I'm not sure if there's anything more you can share about that.
Yeah, so the concept was we have each space has a locking cabinet, And then with the wagon, the design is that the teacher puts small and or valuable things in the wagon and hauls it into their classroom in the building at the end of the day with their wagon.
And I found a couple questions that I'd like to address, if I may, about getting teachers interested and comfortable with potentially using these spaces. We had to be really mindful of how we communicated the setup plans as we were going through it from the very beginning, because we didn't want these spaces to be seen as mandatory spaces, as spaces that influenced our ability to open up any faster than we are already able to, beholden to the county and the public health department. So all of those decisions were made by the superintendent, and these spaces didn't influence them. These were spaces that we wanted to create as safe, healthy, welcoming spaces to be used voluntarily. And we were hoping that once we set them up and we could showcase how they were used and remind people that this is not the first time we've had to think outside the box with being outside and inviting people to be more in the garden, that they got more comfortable, and they did, but these were all voluntary spaces. And another next step is developing a training video. We're working on professional development to really broadcast these spaces as we develop more, that will feature our garden instructors and our teachers and our facilities departments leads who help set them up to really just talk through some best strategies for teaching outside. We learned from Maine's professional development training video, which was super helpful. We're going to be making one of our own specific to our staff, and also trying to connect the garden instructors and the cooking instructors more with the teachers as allies in learning how to teach more outside. So we'll be sharing those resources as we create them as well.
I saw a question about the balance of playground space between play and learning. Can you talk about how you guys navigated that with the principals?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't close that loop when I brought that up. So yeah, what actually happened was at 2 of the 4 elementary schools, we were authorized and requested to put 4 at each of these 4 elementary schools, and then whatever we could at the preschools. And at 2 of the 4 elementaries, the principals asked us to only put 2 because they were worried about the space. So we put the 2 and we put 4 at the other ones. And then when kids started showing up and the popularity of them came, almost immediately within a week, those 2 principals were asking us to put the other 2 up. So those, all 4 of the elementaries now have 4 of them.
And another unique thing about California that's mentioned here in the questions that we and many states outside of California have to grapple with, regardless of COVID, is our fire seasons and climate change. And this is a great opportunity for us to really touch about our work and values around sustainability and our sustainability plan, and how we need to focus on eco-literacy, but also how we need a plan for fire season. We cannot be outside. This is a problem even outside of pandemic times. We would have to take recess and lunch in different spaces. So that's going to be something we have to continually think about. We do not have answers to. So I just want to mention that that is something real, and we're going to be exploring that together.
Great. Well, thank you all so very much for sharing this fabulous presentation today, and for being here to talk with us about all of this fabulous work that you've done. First, big round of applause. Everyone can go back on video and show your appreciation. Thank you, Jezra, Sophia, and Steve.